All right, so we are ready to go. We are live with the one, the only Lina Krylov. So I've known Lina now for, almost going on 15 years. And during that time, she's sold over 1,000 homes. She's become a pillar in the community. She is a business owner, a leader. She has 2 full-time assistants, an amazing buyer associate that works with her from Madison and Company here in the Denver Front Range area. So Lina, welcome to Real Talk. We're so glad to have you. Why don't you just tell us a little bit about, who you are and your philosophy on how you feel about real estate. So I want to summarize that. Why real estate, and what was your journey to get there?
Well, thanks for having me on, Brandon. If you do that introduction every day, we can do this every day.
I know, right? It feels great.
Why real estate? I think there's no other profession where every day is a little different. I mean, I think you can agree with that.
Absolutely.
Just when you think you've kind of seen it all, done it all, you walk in the morning and you're just not quite sure what you're walking into sometimes. But I love it. It keeps me entertained, and I wouldn't have it any other way, honestly. So.
Well, excellent. So you started out with an interesting path into general real estate. Tell us about how you started your real estate career and what was the entry path to get into it, because you didn't just start as an agent. So what did that look like?
So I got my license in 2004, and then I joined a team. Actually, I did it on my own for a little bit, and then joined a team at Coldwell Banker. And that's kind of where I met Brandon. Our offices were next to each other. So I would see him walk in every day and lock himself in there for 15 hours.
and hit the phones.
Yeah, it was fun. And so I joined a team, and right around 2007 probably is when the market kind of started to take a digger. And I ended up getting trained in kind of the REO industry, which a lot of people don't know what that stands for, but it's technically real estate owned. So it's foreclosures. So I kind of, my true entry was a little bit different. So I learned the foreclosure business and sold a lot of foreclosures during that time.
Yeah, in looking at that, because a lot of people right now forgot that was such a huge industry, right? That it was so massive. That was about 2004, 2005, correct?
I think that was 2006, 2007 is when I got it.
2006, 2007. Okay, yep. So 2006, 2007, and then the market kind of crashes, right?
Yes.
And so take people through that. What did a normal day look like in that REO world? And so, because I think a lot of people don't understand how different of a real estate planet it is compared to general real estate. And then we'll get into and talk about how you made that transition from that type of structure to being one of the most successful real estate agents I know here in the Front Range area. So what was a normal day like in the REO world?
Well, definitely different. So, the banks are your clients, right? So they will assign properties to you depending on what area you cover. And so once they assign a property to you, you have to go and inspect it, right? They want to know if that property is occupied, if it's been abandoned. If it is occupied, they want you to make contact with the occupant. Ultimately, they want to help them move out of the property, right? They want to take their asset back and they want to sell it.
Right.
Okay. So,
and also, just to take it one step back on that too. So how, if I wanted to get into REO right now, is it humanly possible?
Well, it is. It's not easy. So no, it is not easy. I was fortunate enough I almost sometimes say lucky, with my first bank that I got in with. They usually don't want to hire you unless you have other experience, right? Other banks that you could show them that you've already sold REOs for. So once you get in with one bank, it's a lot easier to get in with the next one and the next one, because now you have experience, right? and you know what you're doing. For them, they're looking for somebody um, that they don't have to babysit, that knows how the process works. But it's also it's a job where, you know, they don't care if it's a weekend or if you're on vacation. You are tasked on like you have a certain amount of time to complete each task,
Sure.
and you are graded on your turnaround time. So if you don't perform, they just fire you and move on to the next agent. There's plenty of people in line who want to get in and sell properties for them.
Gotcha, gotcha. Okay, so, and if you could go back, I mean, 15 years ago, whatever it is, would you, do you wish you would have just gone into traditional real estate from the jump, or are you glad that you went through that process? If you could go back, would you just say, hey, look, I would have avoided REO and just went straight into my business? What do you think looking back now?
Oh, I wouldn't change anything. I mean, you know, as crazy it is as it is, you know, it's a different animal, but it has, you know, it's interesting. I mean, we have stories. We'll probably have stories for another 15 years of of some experiences we've had. You know, when you're checking on these properties, and I mean, I've been attacked by farm animals, you know, trying to get to the front door of some of these properties. So
Because people aren't happy, right? People have guns, people
yes.
have anger, people are distraught, right? Like, I mean, it's not, you have to be a tough person to be in that realm because it's brutal.
And it's
It's
dangerous. I mean, I've
dangerous.
had properties where, you know, I've called for a police escort, you
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
and I mean, one in particular that was very entertaining where they literally had a SWAT team show up. I mean, I just called and said, hey, I just need some assistance. And I
Just
mean,
trying to sell a house.
just trying to get a hold of this occupant, and you know, and within 5 minutes there were like undercover SWAT team people pulling up all around me, you know, and I was like, whoa. But yeah, so there was definitely some interesting stories from back in the day. But again, it's not an easy business. First of all, what a lot of people don't understand is you need to have quite a bit of money saved up to be able to do REO properties, which I think a lot of people just don't know this part of it. But you're at times carrying anywhere between 20 up to, you know, $80,000 worth of repairs that you're having to pay for up front, that the bank eventually will reimburse you for if you've done all your submissions correctly. You
Yeah,
know, there's times where you just don't get reimbursed for stuff, you know,
yeah.
and so you know, there's, you know, you obviously you can make a good living at it, but there's also, you know, there's a lot of other expenses that I think people just don't realize that you have.
Totally. Yeah, no. And so it's expensive, it's risky, right? That's
Yeah.
the other piece there. So yeah, it takes a certain type of personality and I think a certain type of determination to do that. And so talking about that, you've always kind of, had this no fear about you, right? Where it was this relentlessness. Where did that come from, where you were like, look, I don't care if I have to go to a farm and kick these people out of this house, I don't care if I have to go here, right? Like, you are one of those few people that I've known in my entire life where I could be like, hey, let's go door knocking this $5 million neighborhood tomorrow, and you'd be like, all right, let's rock and roll, right? Where did that come from?
Well, you know, I don't know. I mean, you know, I came here when I was 9 years old from Eastern Europe. And so, I mean, that's a hard transition. You know, you come to a whole different country, you don't speak the language. As a kid, that's a hard transition. You know, at that time, I was actually thinking about that this morning. You know, all you want to do is just fit in,
Right.
right? So, um, you know, that's a lot tougher than people think, because I mean, now that I have a daughter, I realize how mean kids are. Like, even on the playground, like, kids are mean to each other.
Yeah.
So you know, coming to another country where, you know, you don't speak the language or you have an accent and you don't quite fit in, and so you know, that's really really stressful. And then add to that that, you know, we moved to New York and then we moved to Colorado. So, you know, there's a lot of moving going on. And so I think there comes a point where you kind of get really thick skin, and you kind of just, you do what you have to do. And I think that's just kind of my personality.
Right.
I mean, if you want to, get to where you want to go, you just do it.
Yeah,
There's no,
well, I think, and you said, one of the things is, obviously you are Eastern European, you speak fluent Russian. That background, I think a lot of people sometimes might also think it to the other side, where they're like, "Ooh, she's Russian, she's tough." But really, you're one of also the nicest people I've ever known, right? Like you're
uh,
very, you give a lot back, you do a lot, you try to help the people that are in your universe. So I think it's one of those things where you don't want to get kind of stereotyped, because it's like I'm this, ironclad Russian, ninja, right? Where it's like there's a tale of both sides. So looking at that ability, I guess, to not necessarily, well, let me ask this. Were you ever still afraid? I mean, were there days where you're like, I'm just terrified that I got to go do this? And how'd you get past it?
I, was I, yeah, I mean, there was times, I mean, I've had guns pulled on me. I mean, yeah, it's scary, but, um, I don't know. I just never really, I don't know how to explain it. It's just
Just kept
like,
it moving.
yeah, I just keep moving. I think what was scarier for me is when that world ended, and this is kind of all that because you're doing this day in and day out. And then, making that transition to the traditional real estate, I think was probably a lot more scarier to me than going to talk to a 6'5" man with a gun.
Yeah, you were more scared of like running out of business, right? And it did
Yes.
almost, it was like the faucet kind of just shut off, right? Like REO, it was like, I mean, you could
It
kind of see it coming, but it came pretty quick when it,
It did. It went from, I mean, there were days, I mean, at the peak of it, there were days we were getting five, six, seven, eight properties a day. At the end, I mean, you knew it was coming, right? It
right,
was, it went from maybe like, five properties a month to then, three properties a month to gradually it was like one property every 2, 3 months. So it wasn't like you didn't have the time to mentally freak out and say, uh-oh, like now I have to figure out how to do this a totally different way. And me and you have talked about this a lot because, once you get used to a certain way of doing business, and I think one of the, and I hate to say this out loud, but one of the things that I really enjoyed about REO was it wasn't personal, right? It was very cut and dry. It's numbers. The bank wasn't emotional about anything, right? So it was like, here's what it's worth, you know. And so I got used to that kind of business. And then in a traditional business, it's totally different. You have sellers that are attached to their homes. There's emotions. So I think that was probably a lot more scarier for me. The transition was than anything else.
no, absolutely. And then, so talking about that transition, so at Coldwell Banker, you were working on a team, and then made the decision to. Did you leave Coldwell Banker when the REO was kind of starting to dry up, or did you make the decision to do that before? What did that look like?
No, no, no. It was the REO was still strong. I just decided to try out a different brokerage, and so I went on my own, and then it was just Cassie and I, which Cassie's been with me for over 10 years, and so it was just the two of us, and we transitioned, and the REO was still strong, and in that transition. It was interesting because I got another piece of that brokerage did a lot of relocation. So it was kind of interesting. So I went from REO to still some REO and then transition into corporate relocation, which is a totally different animal as well. And so it was kind of an interesting change. Let's just say that, right?
Yeah, so
Uh,
REO, corporate relocation, to almost now 99%, well, 95, because I know you do condo develop or projects and builders, and you help a lot of builders, but then almost 95% traditional real estate where you're
Correct.
at
Yes.
now. Yeah. So when you went into that realm, and we kind of lightly skipped over there. So Cassie, right? So you've got
Yes.
your Cassie, and I think we all hope and wish that we have a Cassie of our own. So explain. So 5 years ago,
Yes.
where a lot of people are trying to figure out, when should I add that leverage, that person that can help me go to the next level? How did that happen? Were you scared? Were you like, hey, I'm overwhelmed. Am I underwhelmed? Do I have enough money put away? How did that? And well, and first of all, and if you could let all our listeners know what Cassie's role is and what she has helped you do or accomplish over the last 10 years.
So Cassie was kind of my everything, right? She was my transaction coordinator. I mean, she was with me through the REO days. So, I mean, there's been times where I've sent Cassie to check on some properties where I was like, "Hey, are you alive?" You know, and like mountain properties where Cassie's car can't make it up the hill to get to the property. So, I mean, Cassie's been through some fun stuff. We've been through some fun stuff together, but she was kind of my all around, assistant on everything, transaction coordinator, personal assistant as well as far as paying bills. Because like I had mentioned with the REO, people don't understand how much time is actually taken up with submitting invoices to the bank to try to get some of your money back.
Yeah, it's like a full-time auditing bookkeeping job, right? Like
Oh yeah,
it's like spreadsheets and expenses and did we spend $14 on a hose spigot or whatever it was, right?
right.
Oh,
So it's a lot of paperwork. It's a lot of paperwork that goes into the REO world that most people have no idea about. They just think, oh my gosh, you get all these properties just given to you to list, and it's just so easy. Money just falls from the sky, which
sure,
is not true.
sure.
So it was just me and Cassie for a long time. And yes, was I very nervous about bringing on an assistant? Of course, because it's a lot of responsibility. Now you're not just worrying about you're making money, you're worrying about paying someone's salary on top of that. So that was a big step for me
Yeah.
when I
Well,
brought
and
her
and
on.
and, and looking at it, so you didn't do the traditional interview process. How did Cassie come to be?
Actually, so I had another assistant, and Cassie worked for the team leader of my old team. And so I think the timing was kind of perfect. I wanted to say that he like laid her off and I was leaving. And so I said, "Hey girl, let's go
Yeah, it just
do
worked
this
out.
together." Yeah. And
Yeah,
so
and I think that's amazing, right? I mean, to grow together over the last 10 years, I know, you guys have had ups, downs, sideways, all of that, but it becomes like family, right? It becomes, a part of you. And then just recently, you made the decision to add another person to your team. Well, you had Cassie. Let's go back because I don't want to forget about Luca.
yes,
So you had Cassie. How long did you have just you and Cassie before your powerhouse,
like I think 10,
partner Luca
like
got involved?
8, 9 years, eight,
Wow.
9 years. Yeah.
So just
It
you
was the
you
two of us.
two, yeah. And then you said, look, I'm doing a lot of great business. Then you added Luca, and can you talk us a little bit through how that came to be?
Yeah. So, I've always fought the team situation, right?
Oh yeah.
Just because, I mean, um, I was kind of I can get through this. And I mean, there were nights where I was doing broker price opinions till 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning and literally sitting there crying because you're so exhausted, you
Oh
understand you
yeah.
have this
I,
amazing
I tried to
opportunity.
do one BPO and I said, yep, that's not for me. And that was the last one I did. It was the first one and the last one I ever did. I don't think people have any idea how hard those are.
Oh, well, there and I hate doing them. I'm not even gonna
Yeah.
lie. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I truly I hate doing them. And so, but you understand from one side, as an agent that you're so fortunate that you have this opportunity, right?
Yeah.
When a lot of people are struggling, that you're actually able to do well. And so, in my mind, like I was determined that no matter how much business I had, like I was gonna do it. Does that make sense? Like
Yeah.
I didn't want to bring anybody else on, because in the back of my head I always had this, and I don't know if this is like because I come from another country, if that's the mentality, but it was like, like make the money while you still can, right? Like you don't know, like in the back of your mind, you understand that this isn't gonna last forever, right? And so it's like work as hard as you can, as long as you can, while, while you have this opportunity. And so, I mean, I could say for like,
Well,
starters, I don't think I even
you
took
still
a
kind of
vacation.
you still operate like that even today, right?
I do. And
Yeah,
it's,
it's like pre-encoded, and I think that comes from, like you said, somewhere deep in our past, where I think both of us feel the same way, where I'm like, get it while you can, because you don't know when this could change. And because we've seen it, how many markets have we seen where it was like everybody was crushing it and then everybody was gone? I mean, I've
yes.
seen offices just go from 200 people to 100 people in less than 6 months because they didn't have a system, or they didn't have the mindset of going, I'm going to grind, right? I'm going to do this. So yeah, I think that's a huge piece is coming from, I don't want to say it's coming from a sense of scarcity, but it's coming from a sense of get it while you can get it, because you don't know what could happen tomorrow,
Right.
right?
And there's a part of me that like admires people that are like, I mean, admires to an extent, right? Like that are like, I have a couple of actually good buddies from my old office that, it was like they work when they had to work and then they go on vacation, and
Yeah,
then they work when they had to work and go on vacation. I think everybody, like me and you talked the other day, people have different business plans, right? Like, and different things work for different people. I think there's just certain things that you can implement that you've been trying to beat into me for about a year and a half that will help it keep it steady, right? Like
yeah,
to where it's automatic and things just kind of happen on their own. Um, but yeah, I mean, back then, like I said, there were many a nights where I would be crying and tired, and you're like talking to yourself, and but I've always been the one that like works best under pressure kind of person, right? So you
sure,
push through,
yeah,
um, and there's a weird like feeling of accomplishment, like, oh my gosh, I was able to do this many deals. We one year, I think we did 133 transactions with just me and Cassie.
which is for people that understand that level is unbelievable. I mean, it is, but it's also not healthy,
Not
right?
healthy. Not at all.
It's not healthy, and it sounds good, and people are like, yeah, I want to do that, and I'm like, no, you don't. No, you absolutely don't.
No,
So
because other things, suffer. Your relationships suffer. I mean, your body needs a break. I
yeah,
mean, mentally,
yeah.
physically.
But what was the drive? What was the mountain you were? Was it financial security? Was it, I want to be number one in my office? I want to be this. What was the what makes you get up out of bed and go, I'm about to kill it again today? Like what is that fire?
I think obviously, I mean, I think a lot of it is obviously is financial security, right? I mean, like I told you, coming from another country, my parents left everything they had. We came here, we started from zero, So, I think when that's your background, you wanna, I mean, they come here to give you a better life, right? Like that's kind of, everybody comes to the States to have a better life for their kids. And so, from I've always wanted to be like, I want to, make sure that I could take care of my parents, because I know that, they gave up, my mom went from like an electrical engineer to like, I working odd jobs,
Yeah,
for
yeah,
$5 an hour when we
right.
came to America, So
Yeah, there's a lot
like
of
I was.
Eastern European doctors that are working construction.
Yes, yes.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
so it's like I wanted to make sure once I did, once you start making money, you want to take care of your parents. That was a big, thing for me. Make sure that they didn't have to worry about things, and so yeah. So financial standpoint was one thing, but for me, I've always tried to kind of live below my means. I don't think you need to have the big mansion or anything like
yeah.
that. So I got into kind of buying properties and fixing them up. So that was kind of, something that I really enjoyed. And so to me, that was kind of more important. Like I wanted to kind of build an empire of like flips and rentals.
Sure.
And, that was what kind of drove me.
Well, you've always been very profit centric and very cost prohibited, right? You don't carry, you're not out here spending 20 grand a month on Zillow leads. You're not out here spending, any money that you spend is to promote your client's property so they can get the highest price possible, right?
Correct.
That's where we've talked about, that's where you spend all your money, is to make sure that the client is taken care of, where a lot of agents are sitting here, and we've talked about it too. You go, well, that agent sold 100 houses, but I know they don't make what I'm making, because again, they've got 14 admins, 19, different lead sources they're paying for. They have 50 different dialers they don't even use, and all this stuff, where you've been able to build this. What I always respect is, year after year, the production has always been there. It wasn't like, it was like you went from, of course there's always better years sometimes than other years, but it
Right.
was always like, I'm right around 80 to 150 units pretty consistently all the time, with, for a long time, and gosh bless her, Cassie, right? It was
Yeah.
your biggest expense, one person,
Yes.
in doing that. And then I think what the wake up call was, is you became an amazing mother about, what, 3 years now, 3.5?
Yeah. Almost exactly 3 years
Yeah,
ago.
yeah, 3 years ago. And then you had to realize, and even then that probably didn't really slow you down very much, but, well, I know it didn't slow you down much, but not, maybe it's not slow down is the right word, but it made you pause and think, how am I going to, because when it's just you can grind, right?
Right.
Right? You can grind. Now you said, hey, look, I got to be at the birthday parties. I got to be doing all the mom stuff. So was that kind of the light bulb that said, I've got to systematize this so I can actually have a life?
Yes, well, I mean, the main key was, that's how Luca and I came to be, was right around probably a month before I was due. I had this thing that was like, hey, who's going to be covering your business when you're giving birth, like minor details.
Yeah, you're just on your cell phone. You're like, hold on a second, hold on. I need about 12 hours here, and I'll call you back.
We had a joke going that I had a couple of closings scheduled, and I was like, "Hey, maybe we should have him come to the delivery room and videotape this, like client signing at the delivery room. That's how you know
Seriously,
your agent is committed."
totally.
Uh,
But that's how your mindset was, though. That's not even a
yeah,
joke. That's the craziest part.
yeah, I'm totally not
Yeah,
kidding there.
yeah.
But so then somebody recommended Luca to me, and we met. And we chatted, and I was like, I'm one of those people, I know it's weird to say, but like, I either like you or I don't, and
Sure.
I get that vibe very quickly, and so we literally had coffee, and I was like, okay, great, like, you want to join my team? And
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
and so that's how we came about, and it's been great. So a lot of, obviously, this, if you're a buyer heavy, that takes up a lot of your time.
Sure.
And so, I knew that that's an area where I definitely needed help. I mean, I definitely want to hang out with my daughter and, and see her. And
Yeah.
so, he kind of took that over, and he's majority, he handles almost all of our buyers for the most part.
Yeah. No, and does an amazing job. And I think that piece has really helped you. That was kind of the real big piece, where you were like, someone else can help, can do it. It doesn't have to be just on my sole shoulders. So Luca, who's phenomenal, that obviously helps. So you had Cassie for about 10 years, or several many years. Then Luca comes on to take on the buyer division. Then just recently you added a third. And so what was the decision process to add the third? Why? What was the pain point?
Other than you beating that into me for about a year.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, we were, we were drowning for a second. I mean,
Yeah.
it was, I think, Cassie was about to kill me at certain times. I mean, and I don't blame her, because I think there's only so much time in a day, right? There's only so much, and we had this conversation, you kept, over and over, and you're like, a good TC can do so many transactions per month.
Right.
And then you have all this other stuff that she's doing. So there's only so much, you can do. And, she was getting frustrated, and I totally understood that. And then I was getting frustrated when not everything was being done, but it wasn't realistic to think that she could do that.
Right. And
you
that's
know?
that took a while to kind of unravel that onion, right? It was because, again, coming from that mindset of, do I want to take on more cost, right,
Yep.
and expense, and the risk to go to another next stage, and maybe
Yep.
not even a next stage, just to keep people from killing each other and to give better quality service. I think one of our big discussions is, I know how much you thrive for your clients on overwhelming, exceptional experience. And when you get to those plateaus, there's something's got to give, right? You can't have exceptional service and a cajillion transactions. You can't have a cajillion transactions and additional marketing, right? You
Well,
can't
you
do
can't have a
more.
life and have
Can't
all
have a
those things.
life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I was, and it was funny because I think you finally got me to get there. And then COVID happened, right? Like right when I was about to say, okay, yeah, I'm ready to hire somebody. And then COVID happened. And of course, I was like, oh, thank God. I thank God I didn't hire somebody, because right now I'd be, having to probably lay them off, and, and
But it
I
was
was
quite,
very
but it was quite, but it was quite the opposite, right?
right. It was quite the opposite, but I was, to me, for me, I think a proud moment was that I was financially secure enough to where at no point did it even cross my mind that I would have to lay Cassie off. Does that make
Right.
sense?
Oh
And
yeah.
we talked about this a lot, where that has been kind of my mentality the whole time, is that keeping that cost, overhead low, um, and but have enough put away to where like she's
You're
family.
safe. Yeah.
Yeah,
You feel
she's
safe.
safe.
She's safe. Yeah.
Yes. And so then COVID happened, and we pushed through. I mean, we worked virtually and still closed some deals,
Yeah.
and
No, it looked like it worked out. And then the next level was, so now explain the dynamic of what CB does and what Cassie does now. What are those roles include?
so CB is the listing manager now. So and kind of our marketing director. And
Yeah.
so she's handling the listing side. So she was able to take off, all the marketing stuff, the flyers, the photographers, the signs. I mean, a lot of the stuff doesn't seem that time consuming, but it really is,
Sure.
so she's taking that piece over, and then Cassie is doing transaction, TCA.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Perfect.
Okay.
And I remember shortly after that hire, you were happy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So because it kind of calmed things, right? When you realize that, yes, there's specific roles for any of those people that are out there looking at it going, look, hey, I'm deciding if I want to go to that next step. Yes, I think a lot of people will look at it and going, I'm going to hire this person, and as soon as I do, I better double my freaking business, right? That's why they're coming here, and they're gonna help me do it. We talked a lot about this, where it wasn't about them helping you. Of course, you're going to do more, but it was much more, we had to get a better base structure so that we could add more consistently over time, right?
Correct.
And now you've even seen your free time freed up to lead gen, right? And to prospect and to have more client engagement and more free time, just more life, right?
Well, and yeah, and during our coaching sessions, I mean, you constantly give me new things for, homework to do. And I think what I was getting more frustrated with myself was that I wasn't, first of all, I didn't have the time to do a lot of the stuff, right? Like I knew I had to, but the other side of that is I sell real estate, right? I'm not a techie person. I don't pretend
Sure.
to be. So like a lot of frustration on my end for myself was coming from, I didn't even know where to start with half the stuff. Nor do I really, I mean, I'll be honest with you. Like, I don't want to know how to do those things.
Sure.
Like you said, hire somebody who's better than you in those things, right?
Yep.
Like it's their job, and they can figure out how to do it and have them do it. Like I'm good at selling real estate. That's what I want to do. So, I think like even little stuff where, since CB's been here, that she's been able to accomplish, like there was just kind of on my wish list, and things you've told me to do, that they're slowly, I mean, they're not getting accomplished like in a minute, obviously, because there's some training that goes into it, but things are happening, like,
Yeah.
one by one by one. And so I think when it all comes together, it's just gonna be beautiful.
Yeah, no, and it is, I'm excited for you. And then, so for a lot of our listeners out there, a lot of what I talk about quite a bit is simplifying the entire business into mets and haven't mets, right? And I talk a lot about those
Yeah.
two categories. And so when we looked at your business, right, and we really looked at it, and for those, and I love having you on because you validate a lot of the things I tell everybody. I'm like, look, I'm telling you that I know this to be true, right? And when we looked at it, you had in your database somewhere between about 250 to 260, 70, 270-ish Mets, right? People
Yep.
that we would quantify and say they know you, they would buy or sell a home with you, they would refer somebody to you, that you would be willing to spend $33, and that's just a token number, a year on marketing to. And when we had that conversation and we broke down your business, right? Because we know at 500 Mets, you're netting, after all expenses, net profit, $1 million. And with you being right about that 250 number, you were netting right around 550 to 600, right? And
Hmm.
so we know that, and I'm not trying to blow up your numbers or anything like that. I'm just saying when we look at overall expenses and numbers, so now, looking at that, we know that that's to be true. Now, the other thing we analyzed in your business is that the haven't met, right? That we weren't really, and that's a lot of what we've been working on now. So can you tell some of the listeners out there, and you use the right word, beating into my head, right? Brendan's been beating into my head. Has it kind of made you realize now that not realize that you're not to say that's the right word, does that system, is it real? Does that make sense?
Yeah, oh, it totally makes sense. I mean, making sense, I mean, most most people that are somewhat successful in our business, I think, have common sense, or at least we like to think so. But
Hmm,
I think it's like, for me, and this, is most of my business is referral,
right.
right? So I don't, it, for me, the lead generation, working with outside people outside of my sphere that haven't been referred to, that's been kind of the hard part, right? Because I build my business on the referral part of it,
Sure.
right? So yes, but when you're preaching that, the Mets and haven't Mets, yes, it totally makes sense, right? You have to keep feeding that the database, right?
Right.
If you're not adding new people to it, you're and we talked about this. This is kind of when I reached out to you for coaching. It wasn't that I wasn't making money or I wasn't successful. I kind of hit that plateau, right?
Right.
I mean, I was like, hey, can I take you to lunch?
Yeah.
And because I mean, I could feel it. It was like, again,
It's the hamster wheel, right? It's the
right, right. Like I was
it's
like
like
right
I do
there.
this,
That's
yeah, I do this much work, I get this much money. I do this much work,
Yep.
I do this much money, but it wasn't I do this much work, leverage, 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 make more money, have more life, do more work, leverage, leverage, leverage. It's just a hamster wheel, but it's addictive because you are making, people would look at it and go, oh, poorly, you're making good money. I mean, great money. And we're talking, you're in the top, 1% in the nation money wise. It's hard to be like, do I want to
Yeah, I
even
can't
screw with that?
complain.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
can't complain. But you get to a point where you go, I could probably do that and more with just a couple of tweaks, right?
Well,
A little of this,
it's
a little
like
of that.
anything. I always refer to working out, right? Like you can work out on your own and you can get to a certain point, right? But to get to like the place,
Yeah,
like physically,
Olympic
or to
level.
look the
Yeah,
way you want to
Olympics.
look, yeah, you got to get
Yeah,
like a trainer, right? You got to
right.
get somebody who's gonna like get you to the next level.
Yep.
I could run on a treadmill for 30 minutes, for the rest of my
Yeah,
life. That doesn't
totally.
mean that I'm gonna get a
But
six pack.
you're also very self-motivated, right? Like that's what the amazing part is. I think that's what the piece that a lot of people don't realize is you reached out and said, look, just like you said, I have this great business, but I'm here. I don't know how to go to that next piece. So taking it to that next level was, again, I think people will never understand that that's what the ultra successful people do is they go, I've hit now this hurdle. I either need to either I've tried to figure it out myself, or I bring in a consultant, a coach, a trainer. I go and figure out the next level because I gotta break through. So yeah, kudos to you for doing that. So looking at this, one of the things I always do, Lina, is I like to talk for a few minutes tactical, right? I like to give the agents out there some tactical tidbits from your business. So one of the things that I know that you do really well, and again, obviously pre-COVID, was client events. So for the listeners out there, can you kind of break down how you started with your first client event and then how that kind of proceeded over time and the value that you got out of it?
So yeah, actually, I mean, you'd be surprised because as long as I've been in the business, I didn't start doing true client events until probably like 4 years ago.
Sure.
Okay. I mean, again, you know, I think it's almost easier. Like if you're a brand new agent, like I can't say enough about starting to coach right away with somebody as a new agent, because then you don't have all the bad habits that we picked up over the years that now we're trying to correct. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but yeah, we did a first client appreciation event was at Dave and Buster's, and it was awesome. I think for like a first event, and we didn't really know what we were doing as far as marketing either. You know, it was kind of just me and Cassie just inviting a bunch of people over, and so I think we had like 60 or 70 people showed up. And we really liked that particular venue for us because, when you have that many people show up and it's you, right? They're coming to see you. It's a lot. I mean, you have to make the rounds.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
And were people bringing like families, kids? They
were bringing kids and family. And the cool part, like with us doing it there, so it was catered. And so we rented the room, right? And then you tell them how many people approximately you're going to have. And then, they give you the packages that you pay for. They give you like play cards. So, the kids can go play video games. It's entertaining, right? So for me, I really like that because there's only so many people that I can talk to at one time. I felt like I was being pulled in like 50 directions.
Yeah, have them all sitting around. Yeah. You
right.
Gotta do
and
something.
So I thought that went really well for a first event to have that many people turn out, And then the second year, it was funny. It was like the people that showed up the first year, like they were excited, they got invited back.
Yeah.
And then more people showed up. So I think the second year we had like 80 or 90. And then the third year, we had like 125 people show up. We had to stop inviting people because we were at capacity, and we got like the biggest room they had there. And so it was amazing to kind of see this thing evolve, and people, I mean, they love that you're, it's like they feel special. I mean,
they're part of your community. They're part of your world. Yeah, it's your tribe. I use that word a lot. They want to be part of the Lina tribe, and people love that. They love a sense of community, and looking at that and taking that community to another level. Also, talk to a lot of us about the Russian real estate community. I wasn't going to leave this part out because I think it's fascinating to me, and I love how there's always so many different kind of sub business niches for people out there that are big. So what does the Russian real estate community look like here in Colorado?
So Russian real estate community from an agent standpoint, or from like I mean, there are probably like, maybe 4 or 5 kind of bigger agents that are in the Russian community. That there are some, I think, that specialize just working with the Russian community. It's a pretty big Russian community in Colorado, actually.
Yeah.
I think what's cool on the other side of that is that all my American clients always laugh because no matter what construction project they need done, I always send my Russian contractors over.
Right. Yeah.
And
well, that's how you've kind of built that. It's all been reciprocation, right? you really, so is there like a secret Russian newsletter? Is there like this, like what, like, because I think when people go, well, hey, I'm from here, or I'm from this, or I have this, right? Like, is there a secret handshake? Like what,
I don't know if there's
how,
a secret handshake. I haven't been, nobody told me what that is yet. There's a couple of Russian newspapers
okay,
that, a lot of the Russian community advertises in. I mean, you talked about this before. I've never gone down that road.
sure.
Most of my Russian clients have been through referral.
It's been organic. Yeah,
Uh,
organic.
yeah, organic. So, I'm probably 50-50 at this point. It used to be much more 90% American and maybe 10% Russian, but
Sure.
over the years, it's definitely grown.
Well, this goes to the point that I talk a lot about, which is people want to work with people like them, right? And I think as soon as you really have that light bulb go off, right, whatever it is, if you're pro-Republican, people want to work with pro-Republicans. If you are pro, whatever it might be that you have this common ground with, it's huge, right? It's huge. And I think when people overlook it a lot and they just go, you know what, I'm going to do this, and this, and it's like, take advantage. I have so many agents in my office who, I was just on a call yesterday, and an amazing agent in our office who, again, does like 90 sales a year. She has a women only wine group that she does, right?
Yeah.
And in looking at that, it's, I not to say because it's women only that it's popular, but it is. That's a big piece of it. If it was just a wine group, I don't think it would be as successful, because she's attracted people to her in that group that are like her, that want to have the same conversations with her, that become a
They
tribe
like to
member.
drink as much
They
as
like
her.
to drink, yeah, and that she's built great relationships and friendships with. So I think it's very interesting in the same thing, where if you as an agent out there, you have something that makes you special is not the right word, but unique, you should try to leverage it, in my
Yeah,
opinion,
find your
right? Like
niche.
work it,
Yeah,
right? Like,
find your niche, find what you're good at,
yeah,
like, that a lot of, like I have clients that I've sold houses to 10-12 years ago that still call me when they need to remodel a kitchen or a bathroom,
sure,
that to me is like, that's trust. You know what I
right,
mean? I mean, like they're like, who should we use?
right,
So, and another thing I think me and you had talked about too, I think that agents and lenders, I think one big thing that I think works for me well is I pride myself on referring business to people, right? Like
yes.
I want
You're
to
a connector.
see,
You are one of the biggest connectors I know.
yeah, and I love it. Like to me, it's natural, right? So, and I've come to realize that because I've gotten, a little frustrated with certain people where like I feel like they just don't know how to refer, right? And like even and the Russian community, it's interesting. I have to tell you this real quick.
No,
Sometimes
please.
they'll call and say, "Can I give your number to my friend?
Right.
Like they want to buy a house." And I'm like, thank you. Yes, of course you can, right? Like, but
It's
in my
cultural.
mind, I'm
It's, yeah,
like,
they're like, am I going to bother you? Right. It's
yeah,
like a
you know what I mean?
cultural
Like,
mindset. Yeah. Like,
and that's when I'm like, so I'll always say, if somebody's like, oh my gosh, I love you. I gave your number to somebody. I'm like, hey, can I have their number so I can call them?
right.
So I think it's having conversations with people too, like how to refer. I think a lot of us that are good at referring, business to people, we forget that it's not natural for a lot of people.
Sure. Sure. Yeah. And I think that's what's fascinating. And so obviously you speak fluent Russian, right?
Yep.
And I always thought about this. What I thought was fascinating is, if you could identify certain, like, let's say every day there's expireds, right?
Yeah.
And you can kind of see sometimes Russian names that pop out, right? And I always just thought, man, what a fun thing to be able to call and do an expired Russian script, right? And just like, if it would like just catch them off guard. Anyway, that was just a stuff that I thought, I
Okay.
was like,
So
it would be hilarious.
You know how Russian people, like everyone thinks we're yelling at each other as it is on the
Yeah.
phone, like when we're talking,
Yeah.
like they're like, what, why are you
Yeah. Are you
yelling? And
guys
I'm
mad
like,
at each other? Yeah. Why are you
yeah,
so mad?
yeah, but I'm like, no, we're just having a conversation. It was actually a friend of mine. But could you imagine calling an
Oh,
expired in Russian?
no, I just think, yeah, I think it would be hilarious. Well, all right, so then looking at the niche markets, one of the other things that you do very well is you are very consistent with your direct mail, right? So for the listeners out there, one of the things that you've had the most success with, maybe not the most success, but I'm saying that's been a real people have enjoyed in your database is your calendar, right? So would you
Yep.
be willing to share the calendar idea with us if you have a few extra minutes here?
Yeah. So, the calendar and I've always done the Bronco magnets and then, well, before COVID, and
Right.
then the Rockies. So, between those three, I mean, almost every home I walk into, they have me somewhere, right? I'm either on the fridge, next to the fridge, but like it always makes me smile. Like I
Yeah.
think that is the best money you're ever gonna spend is the yearly calendar. And we do a pretty good, decent size calendar for the year.
So what's
And
on the calendar? So I meet you at a Russian barbecue, and I'm just kidding, but I meet you at the secret event that you guys have, and you meet me, we talk, we hit it off. You put me in your database. What do I get first? The calendar?
yeah, so usually actually I better not say the calendar, right? It's a handwritten note. No, just
Well,
kidding.
there you go. I was gonna say, yeah.
Uh, so usually, like a handwritten note, if we had a connection, whatever, just saying, "Hey, it was great meeting you." And then, well, you preach the eight
Eight by
touches.
eight. Yeah, eight
Yes,
by eight.
we're still at the four touch stage, so
Yeah.
baby steps. But we're getting there. And then plus the additional mailers that we do. But yeah, and then we usually will send a calendar, like we did, a mailer that you suggested, which
But
was
what's
the
what's
hand.
the what's the calendar? Is it pictures of you and Luca high-fiving? Like, what's the calendar look
That's
like?
funny. That's what we're gonna do this year.
There you go.
No, it's like it depends. It's like Nate Colorado scenery, like
Yeah, just pretty.
but yeah, we are running different ideas as far as
Yeah, like fireman outfits or
yes,
whatever it
that's
might be.
right.
Yeah, I love it. I love
Like
it.
Boo Boo, like dressed up for different
Yeah, yeah,
reasons,
yeah, yeah. Boo being her daughter, they would be like, I don't know who that is. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, so no, I think that's a funny thing is make it cute, make it fun, right? Like what makes you stand out, right? That's gonna stand out in the eyes of the client. So I think, yeah, that's awesome. And that's what people don't understand is it's not like when they say I built my business by referral. Well, there was still a lot of steps in there, right? There's calendars. There's when we say for the people,
Yeah.
because we have a lot of people from different states, the Rockies being the baseball calendars, the Broncos, if you obviously don't know who the Broncos are, the football calendar. So those are three in, easy touch, not easy. It's not ever easy to plan all these things out. And we just, and I think we also learn from our hiccups, right? I know you just did a mailer with, some hand sanitizer, and unfortunately, ordered the size that was bigger, right? So then you order all these hand sanitizers that are too big, and we
And
can't mail them out because they're like $4 to mail out, right? And you're going, dang it, I just ordered 200, 400 of these or whatever it is. So it doesn't come without its, and I've done the same thing. I mean, so many
you
goofy
just live,
things
you
that I
live and
screwed.
learn.
Yeah, you live and learn and you go, all right. And then some people do that and then they just never do it again. They go, oh, it's like I got my hand bit, so I'm not going to do it again. And it's like, then you're never going to get anywhere. Don't think behind the scenes that Lina hasn't had, it's not all been peaches and cream, right? There's a
No.
lot of just getting hit in the face and mistakes here and money that we were going, man, I wish I would have spent that differently. So I think that's the thing is it's just resilience. It's the resilience for you to continue on and continue to improve, which I love about you and which makes you so successful. And then for our listeners out there too, you've also just started to do your own podcast to help educate your clients and everyone in your database and to everyone out in your to get new people into your tribe. So it's Two Bulls in a China Shop, right? So
Yep.
so you just started a new podcast, Two Bulls in a China Shop, and talk people through how you decided to do this, why you partnered with a lender, and what you're hoping to gain out of it.
So I partnered up with Jimmy Everett, and I've known him for I don't know 16 years or so. He's a good buddy of mine, and he's also happens to be my lender. And so we were kind of just chatting one day and thought, let's. And it's not all just educational. I mean,
Sure.
we want to make it fun and people kind of get to know us a little better. And
Yeah, add your
because
own
I
character.
think
Yeah,
I'm
add your
funny.
character. Yeah, yes, add your character to it, right? Your
Yeah.
personality.
I mean, and so it's gonna, every episode we're kind of still trying to figure out exactly how it's gonna go. But we're gonna have an episode for sellers, for buyers, for investors, just talking about life sometimes, and I think there's a fine line of doing, some of it being business and some of it being a little bit more on a personal level. Now, I think you made a great point in saying that we all think we're funny, right? And but I actually am. And
No, I hear you.
but
No,
we gotta. I thought what you said to me the other day about don't let your ego get in the way, or people. You still have to. These podcasts have to be educational, right?
right. Yeah, you gotta deliver a value message, and that's the hardest stuff, because we could sit here and talk for 3 hours,
Yeah.
and it would be hilarious, but people would go, unfortunately, neither of us are a movie star, right? Like, we look at Joe Rogan, it's like, well, yeah, it's interesting when he's interviewing Elon Musk, right?
Yeah.
Because it's Elon Musk, right? Like, no offense, we're not Elon Musk, so,
Not yet.
and not yet, right? But as we do that, we want to make sure that we can provide value. And I think so for agents out there that are thinking, hey, look, what a cool idea where I can pair up with a lender, and in my circle of my circle of influence, my universe, have this ability to put on educational information on a weekly basis, mixed with a lot of fun and jokes and personal anecdotes and all of that. Think about how you're going to be able to connect with your base, right? And I know Lina has no problem with me talking about this stuff, because she knows that her base is going to love her, and other bases are going to love other people. That's why we've
Yeah.
always been so free with information all the time over the years, is we were like, look, you probably aren't going to do it anyway, right? I could tell you everything. Vice versa. She'd be like, Brendan, I could tell you to go do all this. You're probably not. We all are going to be influencing our own kind of universe. So Two Bulls in a China Shop, that's going to be 11 o'clock Mountain Standard Time every Tuesday at Madison Company /Lina Krylov. And if you can't get the Madison and Company one, we're going to put this all in the links below, and all the ways to connect with Lina. Again, send her your referrals, especially everyone from out of state. Give her all the business, give her all the love. And then with that, if you can't find the Madison Company one, just on Facebook, for those that get kind of confused by this, just put in Lina Krylov, and
Yep.
she will. There's not very many of her, so she'll come up that way. And then, Lina, the last question, and then I know I took you over time, and I apologize,
No worries.
is, if you could go back, right, and you hear this question a lot, and you could change anything in your business early on, what would you have done different?
Well, I think learning good habits to right off the bat is so important. I mean, having a database, using a CRM, you know, I mean, there's hundreds of clients that, have been lost due to the fact that I just wasn't using a CRM for the longest time,
Yeah, you were working off of pure charisma and passion,
Yeah,
right? Yeah,
yeah.
and it took you very far. It did take you very far, but then it got to a point where, man, things were falling through the cracks.
Well, it's not even fall. I mean, truly, I mean, not even falling through the cracks, but when you just not you can't keep track of that many clients
Right.
in your mind, or there's got to be some sort of a system put in, like Real Geeks that you're having me use, where there's tasks and there's follow-ups, and you can take notes every time you talk to your clients. So next time you talk to them, you know what you're talking about. You remember about their kid going to college, and
Totally.
people love that stuff.
Yeah, yeah. Well, because you build rapport, right? You build rapport with them. They care about them. They don't care about you, right? They want to know that that
My
Mr.
clients love me.
Yeah, yeah, except for you, right? But yeah, they want to know that that Mr. Scruffy, their dog, is a Great Dane. That'd probably be a funny name for a Great Dane, would be Mr. Scruffy. But yeah, that these little things about them, because they go, Lina cares about me. And that's hard to do when you have 270 people in your brain, right? 270, we would talk all the time, and I was like, so how do you actually lead gen? You'd be like, look, I just do it every day because I do it every day, right? It's not like it's like, hey, I have this set schedule and I'm boom, boom, boom. It's like, I know I need to talk to a certain amount of people every day and have great relationships with them for my business to thrive. And obviously it has. And now you're building the leverage around you that's going to help take it to the next level so you can have better quality of life for you and your daughter, for you and your relationships, for you and your life, for all of those things. So couldn't be more excited for you. So again, check her out, 11 o'clock Tuesdays. We'll put all the information in there. Again, Lina, can't thank you enough for joining us here on Real Talk. If you're new, make sure you hit the subscribe button, ring the ring the bell so you can get all of our weekly episodes with the top agents, the most amazing people. So you can, again, success leaves clues. And Lina gave us a lot of those clues and gave us a lot of those tips today on how to do this successful. And there's no one size fits all. Everybody's path is going to be completely different, but they all follow a systematic model, which either you can implement earlier or you can implement later. It just depends upon how you want to get there. So again, Lina, anything else you'd like to let our listeners know before we let you go?
Yeah. So, I mean, I think the most important part for me too is just realizing that you don't have to invent all these things for yourself, right? Like, that's why I love coaching with you, is because it's kind of like, don't reinvent the wheel. You have all the systems that work. It's just actually, taking the time and implementing those systems into place. And even with like mailers, you guys have great ideas on mailers. And, instead of sitting there and trying to figure out what I'm going to send to my sphere, you give me ideas all the time, which I absolutely love. Thank you so much. But I think if you're new in the business, don't wait to pick up bad habits. It's much easier if you start off right to begin with. So yeah.
Well said. Yeah, well said. So well, excellent. Well, Lina, can't thank you enough. Absolutely phenomenal. I think everyone that's been joining us is going to find a ton of value in here. So again, everyone, thank you for joining me on Real Talk. Join us every single week where we'll be speaking with the best of the best so that you can have those shortcuts. So again, thank you so much, all of you. And as always, I wish you great success.